right, so it looks like we are live. Perfect. So welcome to today's Tech Talk, which is a little bit different than some of the Tech Talks we've done in the past. Today we're taking a look at creating a resume. So specifically the format and the things that you should include in your resume if you're getting back into the workforce, if you're looking to change jobs, then this is a good place to start. This is part of our ongoing Tech Talk series here on Facebook Live. So if you come in the middle, although I guess you wouldn't hear me say that if you come into the middle of this, but if you think this would be helpful for someone else who's not able to watch it at this very moment, then this will be available on the library's Facebook page, and it will also be available on the library's YouTube channel, usually a day or two after I finish talking. So probably tomorrow you'll be able to watch this not just on the library's Facebook page, but also on YouTube. That's the same with all of our Appy Hour and Tech Talk sessions. They all end up on YouTube eventually. If you have any questions as well over the course of this particular presentation, you can definitely put them in the comments. I will try and keep an eye on those and make sure that I answer anything that comes up. But we'll go ahead and dive in. So this is kind of an abbreviated version of our resume workshop class, designed more for kind of this virtual environment through Facebook Live. So what I have open on my screen is a Word document specifically that is a good basic resume template. And this template is actually available on all of the library computers, any computer that you can use in our Heights Library buildings. This template is available to you, as well as the cover letter template that we'll look at a little bit later on. It's on the desktop in the resume template or resume toolkit folder rather. So you would be able to check that out if you like the way this looks, if you think this would serve you well. There also are a ton of resume templates within Word, or if you're more comfortable using something like Google Docs, they have a ton of templates as well that are really clean and easy to work with, because we really do want our resume to be uncluttered, simple. We want you to be memorable because of your experience and accomplishments, not because of how difficult it is to read your resume. So we'll start out at the very, very top with your name and contact information. This should be at the top of your resume, regardless of what type of job you're applying for. It should include your name and contact information, and that will include your full mailing address as well. You should include a phone number, including the area code, and an email address too. It's still really common for potential employers to contact you via phone and often to contact you via email as well. So both of those options you should include on your resume. You may need to type those in an online job application too. You may need to type all of this information in on an online job application, but you still want to include it in your resume just in case it gets separated from that application. In some cases, you may see templates that have social media links up at the top, things like for Twitter or LinkedIn. You can include those if you want, but make sure that your social media page is professional, that you don't have any crazy pictures from college included in those social media pages before you pass the link along to a potential employer. Also of note, your email address should be a professional looking email address, not something you maybe created in high school or things that reference, Cat Lover 13 or something like that. Generally, it is best if it includes your first and last name in that email address. If that's not what you currently use, you can always create a new email address. You can create it through Gmail or any other free email service. Just make sure you are checking that email if that's the one you're including in your resume, because that's how people are going to contact you then. Along the same lines, you want to make sure that the phone number you provide has a voicemail, or that you've set up your voicemail box on your cell phone if that's the phone that your phone number that you're listing, make sure that your voicemail message is professional, and also make sure that you clean out any voicemails, so that if somebody calls you to set up an interview, they aren't met with that message of this voicemail box has not been set up, or this voicemail box is full, please try again. So try and keep an eye on that, especially if you are waiting for people to call you back about jobs. So once we've filled out this information at the top, and this will stay the same across pretty much any resume that you're going to create. Maybe your address changes, maybe your telephone number changes, maybe you get that new email address, maybe your name changes, but it's pretty much going to stay the same up at the top. Our next section down is something that you may or may not have included in resumes in the past, and that is our summary. Previously, you may have seen references to resume objectives. There are still templates out there that still list objective up at the top, and that's things like seeking a senior level product management role in a large scale company or something like that, stating what you are looking for, which is great. It's great for you to know what type of job you're looking for, but that doesn't really help potential employers. Potential employers need to know who you are quickly, and that's what this summary is up at the top. It summarizes your background, it summarizes the work experience and skills that we have listed down below, so that if an HR manager is going through these applications really, really quickly, they can look at that summary and say, yes, this is a good fit, I will look further into this, or this isn't going to work for this particular role. Now, we want you to get into the yes pile, of course, so that's why we need a strong summary up here at the top. So you can also think about this as your elevator pitch, if you've heard that terminology before. It's kind of your quick little intro of who you are as a potential employee and what you bring to the table. So this will summarize your background. This could be across multiple roles, so it's a good way to kind of condense down information. You could also want to include some bullet points, generally 3 to 5 bullet points that highlight your strongest skills and what you bring to the table. We want to try and use active keywords. You'll hear me talk about active keywords a lot over the course of today, because it's kind of boring to just see did this, did this, did this, did this. If you use things like led or designed or taught, that's much more engaging to people reading your resume, and it's also just more descriptive too. It tells people what you actually did in that role. So we will want to use active keywords, so things like established and organized a particular program at your job. If you can use quantifiable things, and we'll mention this a couple of times throughout too, if you can state numbers of saved X amount of dollars or increased sales X%, that's a really good thing to include both in your summary and when we get down to work experience too. But we're basically taking what you've done in your career and condensing it down to this little summary. Now, if you just come across with, or you just come up with very basic descriptions, maybe the summary doesn't work for you necessarily. This also varies by industry too. So try writing out a summary. If it just seems like, well, anyone's going to have that summary, maybe just focus on your work experience, which is the next section we've got further down. It's also worth mentioning that you should really be trying to work on this summary and your work experience further down for every single job application you're submitting. Every resume should ideally be tailored to the job description that you're applying for. So that means it's a lot of work, and job searching is a lot of work, and it can be really, really frustrating. But if you have a good resume kind of laid out that you can pull in things that you've already written depending on the job that you're applying for, maybe have a summary for customer service jobs, and then a summary for secretarial work or something like that, depending on the jobs you're looking for. Having a couple different summaries that you can kind of plug in and customize depending on the jobs you're looking for can help you kind of streamline that process. So as we move down, we get into our work experience. And work experience is probably the section of the resume you're most familiar with. It's the stuff that we generally, know to list. Your work experience should be listed in reverse chronological order. So your most recent job, either the job you're currently in or the job that you most recently left, should be up at the very, very top. It's kind of a look back in time. Start with the recent stuff and older from there. Generally, we want to go back about 10 years with your resume. And if you do have lots of positions over that time period, you kind of want to choose the ones that really fit the job that you're applying for. This again goes back to customizing your resume for every single job you're applying for. You want to make sure you pull out those 5 customer service jobs you might have had over the last 10 years. It's okay to go further back if you have a super relevant job a little bit further back in your work history. That's totally fine as well to include. Now, within our work experience, we are going to include our job title. This should probably be whatever was on your offer letter or whatever your official job title was. We should include our start and end dates. I know sometimes we get questions about, should I include dates? I've been in the workforce for a long time. If you're really only going back those 10 years, that's totally okay. If, on the other hand, you've been at a job 17, 18, 19 years, you can certainly include an earlier start date. That is totally fine. You don't want to confuse people by, listing one date and then they call your previous employer for a reference, and then that gets confusing as to when you actually started. So be honest and truthful with all of your dates when you're including them on your resume. Really be honest and truthful with everything on your resume. That's a good general rule. The company name and city and state should also be listed. This is helpful in case there are lots and lots of different businesses with similar names in the area. This makes it specific to where you were actually working. And then we've got our bullet points again. So this would be listing all of your job responsibilities and accomplishments. Typically 3 to 5 bullet points is a good amount. You might want to be more descriptive in your more recent roles than in older roles, but generally 3 to 5 is a good thing to aim for. Here again, you might be able to write up a bunch of bullet points because we generally do lots and lots of different things in our jobs, have lots of bullet points available that you can plug into a resume to, again, customize it for the job you're applying for. With these bullet points, we are going to want to try and use those active verbs again. So things like accelerated, added, contributed, exceeded, gained, grew, etc. If you do come to the library and use our resume toolkit, we have a whole list of not nouns, they're verbs. We have a whole list of verbs in that folder that you're able to pull in and actually use in your descriptions of your work experience. Also, minor little grammar thing to mention. If you are currently at that position, it should be in present tense. So that means, let me see, what's a good example? So things like improving, improves, minimizes, things like that. So a present tense verb versus something that a job that you've left, a previous job, you would use past tense. So instead of minimizes, it would be minimized. Minor grammatical thing, probably not going to make or break anything, but something to consider as you are writing these these work experience descriptions. If possible, you will want to add numbers or statistics, quantifiable things into your bullet points. So things like, how often did you perform a task? Did you lead weekly meetings? Did you put together monthly events in your role? How large was the team that you managed, or how large was the team that you worked with? How many people were actually using your product? What were your sales numbers? Things like that. It's nice to have descriptions of like great team player or something like that. But numbers are much more tangible for potential employers, and they can see, oh, this person saved this other company a bunch of money. Maybe they can do the same here. So it's a lot more tangible for folks. As we are customizing the descriptions, your work experience descriptions, to the job you're applying for, it's important to look at the job description. There are a lot of keywords within the way that is written that give you an indication of what the employer is looking for. So if they talk about customer service a lot, you're going to want to reference customer service, assuming you have customer service experience, within your work experience section. If they are listing specific skills or technologies that you've worked with, then we want to include that in your skills section, or even in work experience. You can specifically mention that you generated Excel reports or generated Access databases within your work experience. It doesn't necessarily need to be a separate skills section. There has been an uptick in employment or applicant tracking systems where it's more automated. You'll submit your resume, a computer program looks at it and sees if you match the requirements for the job. So trying to match the job description's terminology can go a long way with getting past the computer systems and getting in front of an actual real person who can read it and see, yes, they would be a great fit. We should interview them. Now we are down to education. And again, if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments. And if you've come in the middle of this presentation, you're not quite sure what's happening, this will be available on the library's Facebook page and also the library's YouTube channel, probably in the next couple of days. So we are down on education. So we've gone through our work experience, now we're on to education. Now, if you are a recent grad or you have some sort of certification or education that you're really trying to sell, you've just gotten your MBA, you've just gotten your MLIS for library folks, and that's kind of what you're marketing yourself as, you may want to move your education up, potentially toward the top. So it's one of the first things that a potential employer sees. But most of us, we have a longer work experience. That's where we've gained a lot of our experience and accomplishments. So education's a little bit further down on the list. This again is going to be in reverse chronological order. So your most recent degree is listed first. This should include the name of the school, the city, and the state, because there might be a couple Concordia universities in the world. You probably should include your graduation year. I know that's a question, especially for folks who've been in the workforce for a long time, who've been out of school for a while, of do I want to include my graduation year? You can take it off. You cannot list graduation year. That's not the end of the world, certainly. Lots of people do it. But generally, employers are going to be able to do some math, see that you've worked at the same role for the last several years, decades or so, and determine your age that way. So there are other factors that can indicate what your age actually is. And age discrimination is illegal, but people can do math. Now, if you have graduated or are currently attending college, you don't need to include your high school degree. It is assumed that if you have gone on to higher education, that you have a GED or a high school diploma. So you don't need to include that there. If your highest level of education completed is a high school diploma or GED, then you're going to want to list it. You can also include, of course, things that are currently in progress, things where you don't actually have your graduation year, and you can put things like anticipated 2022, for example, or June 2022. So that will give people an idea of what track you're on. We also have down below education a skills section. So this generally, it's not going to be soft skills like customer service or good team player or anything like that. It's really best for technical skills, hard skills, software programs you've used, soft coding languages you might know, foreign languages that you might know, things that might come up in a job description that are, you're required to use. Computer skills, you can certainly list them here, but in a lot of cases you can list them in work experience above, that you've used Microsoft Office in this role, you used Adobe Premiere to create videos in this role, so it doesn't necessarily need to be a separate skills section. You can also list, in addition to skills, let's see if I can add this to our little template, we could also add activities. So activities would be things away from the workforce. This could be volunteer opportunities, this could be things that you do at church or through school or something like that. And we really just want to list them if they are, again, relevant to the job you're applying for. If the job description that you're taking a look at, the job you're applying for, includes something about like event planning or coordinating events for large numbers of people. Maybe you haven't done that in your role at work, but maybe you're really involved in PTA and you've put like big events on for your kids' school, or maybe you've coordinated volunteer events in the past at an animal shelter. That counts. That's experience that you have. You can certainly include it in your resume because that's part of your experience. It's not just things you've been paid to do, it's also things that you have learned over time through other roles that may not have been paid. So you can definitely include activities outside of work. This is especially helpful if you are returning to work after some time away, whether you were helping sick family members or raising your own family. You can certainly include activities, roles that you were in when you weren't being paid necessarily on your resume to kind of not bridge the gaps. I don't like gaps as a description for that, but show kind of the full breadth of what you can do, what you're capable of. Also listed on this particular template, we do have things for licenses and certifications. So if you have tech certifications, if you have equipment certifications or anything like that, you can certainly list those here. Also professional memberships, if your industry is something that really values professional memberships, then you can certainly list them as well. This also isn't really a CV, something that you would see more in academia where you're listing all your publications and stuff like that. There are different requirements for resumes or CVs, but this is kind of a good starting point for most people as they are writing their resumes. Also, you might notice I don't have references available upon request or anything like that listed on this particular template. That's implied at this point, but it is a good idea to have a number of references available, including their current contact information. Sometimes, depending on the job, they may ask for professional references, so people that you've worked with in the past, or personal references, so coworkers, friends, things like that. So do have a list of people that you can pull from and let them know that you are using them as references, so that they don't get caught by surprise too. But you don't need to list references available upon request. That they know that's implied now. So that is our quick little journey through a resume, so our resume template. But you should also, I know it's even more work, and I don't like writing cover letters particularly, but you should also include a cover letter, put together a cover letter for the jobs that you're applying for. So this starts out pretty much the same as we saw before. It actually, this formatting even matches the top of our resume. So it's nice and cohesive. A lot of the templates that you'll see in Microsoft Word or in Google Docs, there'll be a resume template, and then there'll be a cover letter template. And they use the same colors and same fonts, and it looks consistent. It's kind of like creating your own letterhead. So this should match this information. If you're sending a resume with your old address on it, you should probably update that and make sure that the addresses are the same between both your cover letter and your resume. And then from there, this does follow business letter format. And if you're a little bit rusty on business letter format, we're going to start out with the date. You'll note that we don't have a date. We don't have a date written on the resume. We only have a date on the cover letter. So we will list the date, and then we will have our contact's name, title, company, address, etc. So ideally, the person in charge of the application process will have their contact information listed on the job listing. That doesn't always happen. But it's really best to try and address this cover letter not to just a generic, to whom it may concern, but rather to an actual person. So this may require doing a little bit of research, either calling the company or organization and asking, who the hiring manager is, or snooping around on their website to figure that out as well. But it is really best to try and address it directly to an actual person. Our greeting is going to be Dear Mr., Ms., last name. We want to try and avoid Dear Sir or Madam or to whom it may concern. If you can't find anything more than like hiring manager or HR manager, that works too. Listing a title rather than a last name if you can't find it, that's better than just to whom it may concern. From there, we've got some paragraphs that we need to write. And this always reminds me of when you're put on the spot to describe yourself, or if you wrote college entrance essays where you had to brag about yourself. I'm not good at that. I don't enjoy that, but your cover letter is where you get to say, I'm the best person for the job. And they can be really, really helpful, especially if you are changing careers, if you're moving from one particular role into something brand new. This can be a way to explain to potential employers, hey, I know I haven't worked in this industry before, but I have all of these skills from my own work experience that will apply really, really well. It allows you to kind of connect the dots for them, so they can see, actually, they'd be great for this particular role. Now, in our first paragraph, this is probably the easiest one. You will say that, you're applying for the position of, put the position's name, and then also list where it was advertised. So this gives them an idea of, where they're getting applicants from, whether, it's being posted on Indeed, or you found it on their website, or you found it through a family friend. They want to know, so you can list that. Also, make sure, since again, we're customizing our cover letter for every single job we apply for, that you are sending the right cover letter. You're not sending something that you meant for Shaker Heights to Cleveland Heights University Heights Public Library, for example. Make sure the position is correct too. From there, we have the hardest paragraph. Potentially paragraphs, you could have a couple. And we are looking for, kind of similar to with our bullet points, 3 to 5 sentences that sell you as the best person for the job. So pulling in from your experience, pulling in from what you have listed on your resume, why are you the best person? And this, again, we want to go back to the job description. We want to see, they want customer service. I have customer service. I'm going to say in my 7 years of customer service experience in these roles, I've learned the importance of, friendly, calm service or something like that. We want to pull in your bullet points. We want to make explicit ties. So again, direct references. Use some of the same language that they listed in your job description in your cover letter so that it's clear. I know what you're looking for, and I'm the best person for this role. This may take several drafts to get just right, but try and make those connections clear so that the hiring manager doesn't have to guess. They don't have to guess. Maybe they have customer service experience. Maybe they know this particular software. Make it explicit. Just spell it out for them. Makes their life easier. Then we want to kind of summarize it with something like, I believe my skills will make me the best candidate for the job. I look forward to discussing this with you. Thanks for your consideration. You don't necessarily need to include contact information because, again, got contact information up at the top. And then we should have sincerely. Ideally, you would print this off, sign your signature in pen, scan it in, but if all else fails, you can just type it as well. Now, these templates are available. I know I've said this a couple of times, but these templates are available on all of the library's computers. So you don't need to, pause the video and try and type all of this out. Rather, you can come into the library. Our computers are open. If you're looking for a little bit more time, because typing up a resume takes some time, especially if you're trying to do it for every job, again, that you're applying for. You can always come to the HKIC Computer Lab at the Lee Road branch. We're the building across the street from the main library, where we have 2-hour computers. So if you need a little bit more time, we also have staff available who can help you troubleshoot things, especially if you're not as familiar with working in Word. Then you can definitely come to the computer lab and we can help you out. You don't need a reservation, you can just walk right in. And also, we have, through the computer lab, through my department, we have virtual resume review. So if you already have a resume and you just want somebody to look at it, you want to see if, if there's anything that you can work on. Oh, too far. Where's my little graphic? There it is. Or if you just want to be in touch with someone about creating a resume, we could send you these templates as well. You can email us at techexpert@heightslibrary.org, or you can also call the library. The main library number is 216-932-3600, extension 1297. Although I'll probably email you if you leave an email address if you call, because it really is easiest to do over email. But we'll take a look at your resume and give you some recommendations, discuss different ways that you can stand out to employers. This is completely free. You don't even need a library card. You can just email it to us and we'll respond back. If you want to make those edits and then send us another draft, you absolutely can. But that is a great way to, once you've typed things out, just get another pair of eyes. Because really it is best if your resume and your cover letter, a couple people look at them. We get kind of blind to spelling mistakes or weird grammar things. Having another person look at it can be really, really beneficial. Make sure everything makes sense. Make sure you're saying things the way you want them to be said. Also, we do have a number of other kind of work-related, career-related programs coming up in the next month. So next Tuesday, that is going to be June 8th, we will have an Ohio Means Job tutorial via Zoom. That's going to be hosted by the Noble branch, but it's via Zoom, so you can register online no matter where you live. That's going to be at 7:30. So Ohio Means Jobs is tied to the Department of Job and Family Services. So if you have received unemployment benefits or anything, they want you to use Ohio Means Jobs. It can be a little bit tricky to navigate sometimes, so you can certainly check out that tutorial. So that's Tuesday, June 8th at 7:30 via Zoom. We also have a couple of Zoom, not tutorials really, but programs coming up through the Lee Road branch under the heading Be Your Own Boss. So maybe you don't want to have to put a resume together. You have a really, really great idea for a business. You want to get started as a contractor in Cleveland Heights. We've got 2 programs coming up for that. So on Monday, June 14th, there is a program at 7 p.m., again via Zoom. So you don't need to come into the library. You can do it from the comfort of your own home and computer. There's a program for So You Want to Be a Contractor. Now this is specific to Cleveland Heights, but you would be able to learn the process of becoming a contractor within the city. Also on Monday, this will be Monday the 28th of June at 7 p.m., there is another Zoom program on starting a small business in Ohio. So the process of becoming an LLC, all the paperwork you have to fill out, all of that. So those are both on Zoom, and more information is available on the library's website too. Finally, I will be back on Wednesday, June 30th with another Tech Talk, so another Facebook Live session like this, about applying for jobs online. So once you have your resume put together, or as you're putting your resume together, how you can find jobs, how you can actually go through the application process. That will be again at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, June 30th. So thanks for joining us. If you do put together your resume and want us to review it, you can email us at techexpert@heightslibrary.org. If you've just tuned in or you missed some of the beginning of this, it will be available on Facebook, the library's Facebook page, probably shortly, pretty much as soon as I finish this video, and it will be available on the library's YouTube channel, usually within a day. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.